Howdy, I'm Kevin. I'm still an alcoholic. Kevin, what's up, Kevin? This is where I share. Nice, man. So, thanks for asking me to lead, Louis. I walk in here. I've been a Temple City Alano Club and a He-Man Woman Hater for like my entire sobriety, so I've heard much of this group, and it's nice to finally be in here. I walk in, I see at least a dozen guys I recognize. I'll just start at the beginning, I really cannot attribute my alcoholism to anything I can remember from my childhood. I had like really loving parents who like never drank. Like once a year they would split a beer, and like I don't get it, but they like I have 3 siblings, and as near as I can tell, not one of them has alcoholism. And I really was a pretty happy kid. I was really cocky, really driven, really arrogant kid though, and like my whole life I knew I was going to go somewhere and I wanted to do something with my life and I thought I was going to be somebody. And so like that's really all I did. Like I was, captain of the teams, a straight A student, and like I just set my nose to the grindstone and really just I stayed on a pretty good course for a while. When I was in high school, never really touched alcohol. When I got into college, I drank a lot actually in college, but I had 0 consequences from it, like none. My sweetheart from like high school, college girlfriend, like she knew me a really, really long time, and we were very close, and she knew me better than probably anyone at that point. And she did, towards the end of college, she asked me a question that was probably my first glimpse that maybe I don't drink normally, but she said, "Why do you want to drink while we do everything?" And I was baffled by the question because I was acing my classes. I was not in trouble with anyone. I didn't have any consequences. I was like, you can do things, and then you could do things while drinking, and one's more fun than the other. I don't get it, And so that was like the first time anyone had ever, kind of posited to me, like, what? Is this normal? And like, to me at the time, yes, It wasn't until I was in grad school that the wheels came off. So, like I said, I knew that I was going to do something. I had a really, driven personality. And so I got into my grad school of my dreams. And I was very young, but like I had arrived. I had achieved everything I'd set out to do in my very short life. And I was in one of the top programs in the nation. And I was like, I'm here. So what now? And so it kind of started with just straying eyes. I had this girlfriend, actually it was my fiance, like my high school, college sweetheart, and she's starting to be a real drag, She wanted more of my time, I had less of it, and she was angry all the time, and I noticed this girl that was one of my classmates, and I said, well, that would be very nice to have something more convenient. So I dumped my girlfriend and started chasing after this other girl. And she had been like, actually she's a very normal, nice girl. And I'll rush along. But long story short, she was amazed that I had gone that far in my life without doing any drugs. And she's like, let's make some bet. I'll make some stupid bet. I lose. I don't remember what it was. We were studying in the library. And like the bet was like, I will try drugs with her and our other friends if I lose. And so I did. And wham! Like that was the line. I know the day, the night, the minute, the hour that I crossed the line. And like, I drank a lot, and I drank all the way through, and I absolutely identified as an alcoholic, and I got sober and belonged in Alcoholics Anonymous. But that was the night that I lost the power of choice in my sobriety, or not versus sobriety. Drunk and loaded. I had to be loaded from that minute forward for like the rest of my life. I had to just be loaded 24/7. And like, I don't know why or how or what, but like that night, something changed bodily, physically, mentally. And I won't bore you with too much because, quite frankly, my drinking story is not that remarkable. Like, I was in healthcare. I was doing something that you generally, should be very sober. And, you would want someone, if they were going to be doing what I do, you would want them to be sober. And I was finding it increasingly difficult to go and keep doing that sober. I would have to find this perfect level of just loaded enough to get out the door in the morning without getting caught or fucking someone else. And that was like a really small window. And I was having a harder and harder time like hitting that really small window. And so like, luckily, I never actually hurt anyone, but I was constantly ashamed of what I was. I was living a double life. I knew it. No one had to explain to me, Kevin, you should not be doing this. This is not respectable. This is dishonest. This is, quite frankly, dangerous. I knew that, and I hated it, you know. So how do I know I have alcoholism? Like, well, you know, we had 20 questions, and they're great, but I think really there's only 2 that I care about. And the first one was, when you take any amount, do you lose control over the amount you take? And for me, that was it. Like, I tried to get sober one time in the middle of school, and I thought I was going to just drink for a weekend. I'm like, wow, I deserve this. I've been sober for a couple months. I'm going to drink for a weekend. And I literally was loaded for all of 2010, 2011, and half of 2012. I meant to drink for a weekend once, and I was drunk for a year and a half. So, yes, when I take any amount, I lose control of the amount I take, you know. But here's the kicker, like, we all drink a lot, we all did a lot of drugs, we do stupid things when we're loaded. That's not that interesting to me, to be honest. What is completely baffling about alcoholism is, the other question is, when you genuinely want to stop, can you? You know? And like, some people might, like, you know, beat around the bush and like dick around about it, like, hey, I could quit, I don't need to, if I wanted to, I just want to learn how to drink like a gentleman. Whatever you want to do, fine, it's fine. But I woke up every morning for years going, I don't want to do this again. From the bottom of my heart, I don't want to drink today. I don't want to use today. I meant it from the bottom of my heart. And I knew I would fail, usually before 9 a.m. And like, that's like, explain that to a normal mind. Explain that to a non-alcoholic. I don't even have a to-do list today. I wake up with a list of one thing don't do, one don't do list, and I can't do it. And I'm a pretty capable guy. I think I'm fairly smart, but like, I couldn't do this thing. And like, every day, day after day after day, I'd want to stop. I tried things to limit and use. There's a lot of new guys, so I'll just throw out a few. Like, I would like throw out all my stash. This time I mean it, you know, and like, I'd be back at the dealer in like a couple hours. You know, I'd keep all my shit with my friends and say, I'll only be loaded when we're hanging out. And I'd be calling them all hours of the night, like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Like, get away from me. You're sick. Don't come to my house. You know, like, I'd like all this stuff, like buy a gram, see how long it lasts, like 15 minutes, you know, go right back, and like all this stuff. I did all this stuff. And like, none of it stopped my drinking and using. So what did work, right? Okay. I had a buddy who was in school with me. And I really lost control at the very beginning of school, and I was at the very, very, very end, like weeks away from getting everything that I had ever wanted. And he had once been sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, my buddy, my classmate, and he had been drinking, and we both knew it because we were both going to, like, we were making some scenes and spectacles of ourselves, and go, hey, you're losing control. You need to get sober. You should go to AA. I'm like, well, yeah, you let's go to AA, you too, you know? And like, so we buddied up and we started going to AA, right? And the thing is, like, I don't know why I was ready at the time. All I knew is, like, I was sick and tired of feeling the way I was. Like, I wasn't losing anything. Quite frankly, all I had done was, like, lost another girlfriend, not that shit, nothing had happened. I was about to graduate, get the degree, get the money, get the job, get the prestige. I still had plenty of friends. Like, I don't know how to say this any other way. Just like, I was getting everything I'd ever asked for, and I felt empty inside. I hated myself. I knew I was a fraud. I was tired of looking at girlfriend after girlfriend in the eye and lying to her again about being sober. You know, you're gonna get loaded? No. Like, literally 5 seconds before I just got unloaded, you know? Like, and so, like, weeks before I'm supposed to get out of school, we start going to these AA meetings. And I think it was about 30 days we were going to meetings, and I was learning things. I was relapsing, though, between each meeting. Like, I was not staying sober. We were going to meetings, like, every day or every other day, and, like, I was relapsing. And, like, but they tell me things like, Kevin, it's not drugs and alcohol that are your problem. It's guilt, fear, and resentment that eat you up inside. They make life sober intolerable. If you want to stay sober, you need to find a way to address those feelings. because it's not drugs and alcohol, it's whatever, don't do them. You know, that's the best advice I have. You want to come to Alcoholics Anonymous, the only advice I have is you probably shouldn't drink, it doesn't help. But if you want to stay sober, like find out what in your life, inside you, spiritually, is fucking eating you up so bad that you hate being sober. You know? They told me things like, the first one to get you drunk. And I go, that's stupid. My tolerance is through the roof. I don't, like, first one doesn't do anything. I can't even be loaded for more than an hour. You know? My liver's like the Hulk. And like... But then I'd go home between a meeting, and I had a big book. I had the big book, and I'd go after a meeting, and I would take a drink, I'd take a puff, I'd do whatever I was doing, and like I'd realize, oh, I'm going to keep going tonight. And then I realized it was the first one that gets you drunk. You know, and I learned these things, and eventually I was like, I heard about these sponsors, we got to get one of these sponsors. Let's go meet a sponsor. So my buddy took us, and what he did was we interviewed all his previous friends and acquaintances from his last stint in AA. And we'd meet them, we'd call them, we'd meet them one by one and be like, hey, let's check this guy out. Let's go ahead. And the first guy met us in front of this coffee bean by a strip club, and he opened the big book and we started reading out of it, the three of us, and then you could see him kind of looking sideways at the girls going into work. I'm like, this guy's, no, not this guy. And then we called a few other guys, and then like, you know, we would meet with them, and like they were members of Alcoholics Anonymous. They'd, yeah, I'll do it. I'll meet with us. They'd sit down in a meeting, before a meeting, after a meeting, talk with us, and like, you know, but quite frankly, you could tell they were like disinterested or like kind of too busy. And like that first guy, the very first guy that I was like, not him, is the guy who actually ended up becoming my sponsor, is my sponsor to this day. And the reason is because despite anything else, you know, here's one thing that is a true, he is the true deal, is that he understands that Alcoholics Anonymous is like, what you do is you go to meetings, you put newcomers in your car, you take them to your house, you sit them down on your sofa, you read a book with them, you get them for coffee, you go to, and then in between that shit, you do things like have a job, maybe try and date a girl. Like, he's successful, he has a business, he now has an airplane, and he talks about it all the time. I go, you're the most fucking unrelatable guy in all of Alcoholics Anonymous, because you talk about your airplane so much. Like, no one gets you. And like, but like, at the end of the day, here I am 9 years, 9 months, and 2 days later, he's the same guy. He's putting newcomers in his car, he takes them to meetings, he reads the book out of them, and like, he's never had to talk a good game, because he lives it. And like, quite frankly, I think he's a terrible speaker. I think he'll never be a circus speaker. He'll never be asked to like go speak at all the big meetings. Like, every time he speaks, I'm like, man, that was pretty awful. And like, but the point is, like, if you had just followed him around and copied him, you wouldn't be drinking. What more do you need? A guy who understands Alcoholics Anonymous is about you get a life where you don't have to drink and use anymore, and there are other people who might want to know about that. So you do whatever you can to help them. And so I worked the steps rather quickly, and I'll just like get to the punchline. Like, I got better. Like, I feel like I really felt better very quickly. I did not have to suffer very long. So I do have several minutes left that I want to talk about what's happened. I'm not a newcomer. I haven't been for a while. I am not an old timer. I'm like a very boring middle timer. And I will be for a very long time. I'm like, you know, so what happens when you just sober for a while in Alcoholics Anonymous? Fucking life. Like everything. The good, the bad, the ups, the downs, the average, the boring, and everything in between. And that's kind of what I've been learning to do for several years now. Like, first thing I had to do after I got sober, worked the steps, and my life got better was I had this girlfriend that I really wanted back, so I worked my steps so I could make amends to her and get her back. And I did. And we dated for like a year and a half, you know, after I got sober. And like, I'm not going to say like it was all good or all bad. Like, there's some ups and some downs. But one day she abruptly and very unpleasantly left. And that shattered me. It just like ruined me. And the guys here who were going to meetings with me around that time know I shared about it week after week after week after week after week for like a year. And like, it ruined me. And like, what I did in that year, sober, several years, worked all the steps, sponsoring guys, 5, 6 sponsees, 2, 3 commitments, gratitude lists, praying, meditating. I was like AA poster child, and like, I was miserable every day that year. And I tried every single thing under the sun to fill the void except drinking and using. I bought shit I didn't need, I over-exercised, I over-ate, I pursued women I didn't care about, I did all the shit. And then Some of it was not that big a deal. Some of it was really painful, and I wouldn't want to do it again. But like the point is, like I think in sobriety, at some point you got to try all the right things and all the wrong things and do everything. And you're like, yeah, do that. Maybe that will make a difference, but it won't. And realize that all you really wanted was a deeper connection with your higher power. The only thing that pulled me out of that was like at some point I yelled at God. I'm like, you're fucking up my life. I'm tired. I'm going to 10 meetings a week. I fucking checked out Al-Anon. I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I'm miserable and I need your help. Because you need to do this because I can't do anymore. I'm tired. And I had it out. I gave him the business, and immediately it felt like he was there. I'm here for you. I will take care of you. And nothing has proven differently since that point. And I needed to, though, try everything the wrong way to see that really what I wanted in sobriety, even, like doing all the AA stuff, was really just a true understanding that God's got my back. And that pulled me right out of it. And then, fast forward a couple of years, I've actually been doing pretty well. And I met this girl that was really actually extremely healthy. And most of you have met her, several of you have, would tell you, like the other guys, like very, normal, good, healthy girl, nothing crazy, no red flags, none of that crazy shit I was always into. And like, one day I'm like, I'm either going to marry her or I'm going to break up with her. I think I'm going to break up with her. And like, I was like, why are you going to burn it all to the ground? This is going really good. And then I talked to this guy. I said, I hear you talk about these traditions, man. Tell me about these traditions. You're the only guy in my meeting I hear talk about them. And he said, well, you can't talk about traditions without talking about service. You need to go join general service. So he sent me to general service, and I was currently at that time I was going to Marijuana Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. So I joined GSR for both fellowships. Didn't realize they're 2-year commitments. I arrived in the middle. And ended up doing 3 years of general service for both of them. But we started talking about the traditions. And the very first thing he said to me is, oh, traditions. What's the smart-ass answer you give? Like, what are traditions? Oh, they're to the group. What the steps are to the individual. Like, what the fuck does that mean? He said, no, take every single one and personalize them. And the first one is like, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on our unity. AA unity when I'm in AA. Our unity when I'm at work, me and my coworkers, my employer, my employees. Our unity. When I'm in a relationship with someone, me and that girl. And I started to realize, oh shit, our common welfare depends on me trying to do what's best for us. And then instantly, even in that first tradition, I realized I was going to marry that girl. And I did, and in the year since then, I would tell you this, I got a couple of minutes left. In sobriety, my life has been cyclical. Every year and a half, 2 years, maybe even every 3 years now, I can go for an extended period of time with no drama. Minor things, little annoyances, but a very calm life. But first of all, that's fucking crazy. I can tell you now, today, Kevin can go 2 to 3 years without any problems that are really significant. It's like, that is new. That is a new page for me, But every couple years in sobriety, while going to meetings, because I was always told, have a home group, have a sponsor, trying to take people through the steps, have a commitment, say yes to AA commitment. So I do all these things, and I never have stopped. But every couple of years, I get really miserable and start being very, very uncomfortable in sobriety. And I can tell you that each and every single time, it has come down to this. I get plans and ideas. I have wants and needs that I think must be met. And I start to place demands on what I think life should be, where it needs to go, and things that need to happen for me to be happy again. And if I could tell you, what have I learned in my life is that I'm an incredibly bad judge of what's good for me, and I have no idea what I need. Every time I've gotten my dreams fulfilled, I've been the emptiest I've ever been. I literally tried to kill myself when I had everything that I wanted, So how do I get back into a good life is every single time I learn, I have to start surrendering again. Surrendering to that thing that was so easy when you're new because you ain't got shit and nothing's going right. And what do you got to give up anyways? Like, God, take it all. I'll do anything. But I got to do that. I got to do that every time I'm uncomfortable in sobriety. As soon as I've gone back to that place of, I don't need anything. I don't want anything. God, just do what you need to do with my life. That third step prayer I learned to say every day for the first 5 years of my life in AA is like, God, I just want to put me in the game today. Show me who I'm supposed to help. Tell me what I need to do, and that's all I want to do. And as soon as I can do that, the relief is instant. And I can tell you now, if I've done that 2, 3, 4 times, and every single time my life has gotten better, I now believe that there's something good looking out for me that actually is trying to help me. I don't have to struggle so long anymore. So that is my time. I will wrap up with this. I believe that this is God's design for us to, somehow save us from ourselves. And I just got to remember to get out of the way, let him do what he needs to do, try and help other drunks, and stuff works out. So it's really good to be here. Nice to meet the rest of you guys. Thanks for letting me share.